Hello and welcome. I'm Jazz and today I'm going to be doing a speed painting. This was originally supposed to be a speed drawing, but something went wrong with my brush. So in frustration, I decided to just go for it instead with paint and no line art. I'm just doing my sketch with the basic pencil Photoshop brush in a light red color. How I usually like to do my drawings is I like to start with a certain color palette and then decide from there what I'd like to draw. And today I was looking at this bluish color palette and I was kind of feeling like drawing a lady with her skirt blowing in the wind. Just sort of standing along a pier or something. It changed multiple times throughout the drawing, just depending on what I was and was not able to do. The shoes, which I'm sketching now, gave me a ton of grief. I have no idea how to draw shoes. I have no idea what I'm doing basically all the time. I'm very indecisive about her face here. I change it over and over again. Yeah, because I really was not liking the way the first draft of that face was going. Here I am trying the other shoe, and it is not working. So I just copy and paste because I'm lazy. Again, I'm gonna go in with the face again, try and fix it up. The skirt was giving me a lot of trouble too. I'm not really experienced with how clothing moves and folds as it moves. I was looking at a reference image, but I don't think I really nailed the lightness of the fabric that the image was showing. So that's something I'd like to get better at as time goes on. This angle of the wall was kind of throwing me off a lot as well because it obviously goes off into the distance. And I tried several things, you know, keeping the lines straight and stuff. But in the end, I just kind of chopped the wall off, as it would. The wall's not going to go off forever into the distance. So I eventually solved my issue by creating an endpoint for the wall. There I am going in again with the face. It's, again, not what the final image of the face will look like. So it's basically just a placeholder. See, here I am trying with the brush, but for some reason I was getting really weird pixelation on my brush today. I do have a custom brush that I made myself, so it might have just been something going wrong with my computer or the settings on the brush getting messed up, but the lines are very uneven. So I decided to just go in with the background at first because I didn't plan on doing any line art in the background at all. But I was using the mixer brush in Photoshop, just the basic round, which there's probably a better brush, but I'm not experienced enough at digital painting to know. I'm not really sure how I was supposed to do the ground here, so I just kind of tried to make it look slightly uneven, slightly like there was a variation in the color of the grass. And I very stupidly did all of this on one layer. I don't know why. I eventually add more layers, but doing it all on one layer made this so much harder than it had to be. I don't know why I did it at all. Going in with this blue and blending it into the skin tone was really interesting because I'm not sure I would usually use such a blue color. I definitely wouldn't go gray, of course, but on the skin tone it really like almost makes the character look very pale or dead. So I don't know, I really like how it ended up turning out. It really complements the rest of the drawing. Here, the hair, I'm still trying to figure that out too. Something about the shape of it was looking very weird to me. But then it turned out absolutely gigantic. So I do go back in and kind of take down one part of it later, but it definitely got very big. Here I am just adding some shape to the face with that blue. Not too much detail, just a little bit figuring out where the features would go. I do eventually change the shape of her jaw. I find it a little bit too square as it is right now, so I do fix that. I also do go in and change some stuff with her hair as well. See, there I am, narrowing it down a little bit instead of being so huge. I do go in and fix the hair a little bit later so that it has a little bit more dimension in it. I'm still, again, trying to figure out how hair works. I'm fixing the shape of the jaw here. Just rounding it out a little bit to make her look a little bit more little bit more feminine, I think. Maybe she contours, I don't know. I do also eventually change the eyes. I started them out there and I kept them closed like that. That wasn't my initial idea, but I thought I might have done the upper lash line a bit too low. So I was trying to make it work with just the eyes closed and the eyelashes, but it didn't look quite right, so I do go back and fix it. Here I am trying to add some more depth and dimension to the hair so it looks a little bit more like flowing chunks of hair instead of just pieces. And I'm actually really happy with the little piece that's kind of hanging over her shoulder. I think that really gives it the look of hair, kind of like a, you know, a side curl or something. These colors were really weird because when I was mixing them together, they went from blue to gray very, very quickly, which was odd because I was only working with different shades of blue. But when I was blending them, they were graying out very, very quickly. Here I am putting in the shape of her dress, the shape of that back arm. Again, doing it all on one layer because I'm so stupid. I got a little frustrated working on her, so I went to do some clouds in the background, and I did them in gray at first, because I was like, yeah, in the distance gray, that makes sense. But when I zoomed out and saw the gray of the clouds, I was like, wow, that looks really weird with everything else, so I go back in and I make them blue. And I was trying to make them look really, really soft and in the distance. I didn't want any harsh shapes with them, so I tried to blend them out into the sky quite strongly. This is the first like digital painting I've ever done. Oh, now the shoes. So I'm not really sure how to do fabric, which is I think the thing I'm going to move on to next. I'm just adding some more shading to her chest and back arm, making it darker so it looks further away. Adding some more highlights to the hair, hopefully to make it stand out a little bit. Then I go in with the dress, and I'm attempting to make this poof on her sleeve kind of look like a chiffon material, something fluffy. But I think the way I shaded it, it actually looks more like it's made of stone, which is a little weird, I think. Just a little bit unusual. Trying to make that fabric look a little separate from her chest, and then doing the fluff on the other side. I'm pretty happy with how that one turned out, actually. Again, it looks kind of stony, but I think I put the shading in the right place, which makes me really happy. And then I feel like her back is a little bit weird shaped, so I do go back and change that later. And with the bottom of the skirt, I wanted to make it look like it was blowing in the wind, but I think I had a fundamental problem with the shape of the skirt. And again, the way I shaded it, it looks like heavy curtain material. It doesn't look necessarily bad, in my opinion. It looks like it's an expensive dress made out of thick material. But at the same time, it wasn't what I was going for. And getting the shape of the bottom of the skirt as well was a little bit tricky. I do think I landed on something that I'm kind of okay with, but I'm not sure if it looks like it goes behind her legs, which would be a little bit of a problem if the skirt was only covering the front half of her body, you know. I am decently happy with doing these little loops in the skirt so it looks like there's an underside and an overside. I did want the back part of the skirt to look a little bit more like it was flapping in the wind. It looks like there's a breeze, but that the skirt is too heavy to really move. And at that point I already shaded it, so I couldn't really fix the structure of it all that much. Shading the bodice was also difficult. I wanted to kind of make it look like it was twisting. Wow, I just hit my mic, I'm sorry. I wanted to make it look like it was twisting around the body, but again, blending it got really gray really fast, and I think it's because of that light blue color that's almost gray. I am kind of happy with how it ended up though. Here I am trying to make it look like there's a back of the skirt. And then working on the hands a little bit. Finally working on this front arm, which I was avoiding because it means I would have to do the hand. Just basic shading there, trying to get the structure around it. I'm not really a painter. I have done a few paintings, but painting in general is just very confusing. And I didn't want to erase, obviously, here, but I did move that hand in a little bit because I felt the fingers were kind of long. And I tried to get the shape of the hand at the very least. It's not the best hand I've ever done, but it's a hand. Here on the legs, I actually forgot where her knees were. I originally thought that the knee going forward was part of her leg in the front, so I did have to fix that. Again, just kind of basically shading everything. The shoes are so annoying. I'm gonna spend just one day where I draw nothing but shoes for like 2 hours, and eventually they will look correct. But yes, I was trying really hard to kind of mimic the shape of a shoe, and there's the buckle. Eventually, I think I understood what the shoe was supposed to look like, but at that point, the balance of her pose and everything was already like off. The balance of her foot and everything as well. It doesn't get any better with the back one, in case you're wondering. The shoe that's further back is also a nightmare. As far as the background goes, I just kind of wanted to do something simple. I don't really draw with the background all that often. I'm trying to add to the illusion of the wind, because if her skirt's blowing up, obviously her hair is going to blow up a little bit, and I think that softened up the texture of the hair a little bit, made it look less like Play-Doh and more like hair. I put a little shadow under her hand as well, because she would have a shadow under her hand. Again, hair is something I'd like to work on as well. I think it's average in this. I'd really like it to look a little bit more soft. Here, I wanted it to look like bricks, so I learned this technique with scales, where I could kind of just drag the brush, but it wasn't working here, so I just kind of swiped it down and then went back and forth, and by happy coincidence, it ended up looking like cobblestone, which was excellent. I decided to draw in some street lights to give her a little bit of a interesting feel to it. And here I thought if she's under a street light, she should have some highlights on her. I'm trying out a bunch of different layer styles just to see what they would look like. And in the background, I've done these lines under the lamp to highlight as if it's water. I do eventually change that. I thought originally the cobblestones could look kind of wet, but it just wasn't working out, so I do change it up a little bit. And also I changed this yellow that I'm using as well because it doesn't match anything else in the drawing. So I changed it to that pinky color, that's her skin, and the lamp in the background. I don't know why it's yellow in the foreground. So yeah, I eventually get rid of that, and I just sort of blend out a little puddle of light. And then I do the same sort of in the interior, but I use a Gaussian blur as a filter, so I do that as well with the background one. And of course, because it's all on one layer, I had to cut out her shoes and legs. The closer light was looking a little bit just like a straight black line, so I tried to add some texture to it. And then here in the background, I wanted to add something highlighting the ground in the distance. And I'm trying to blend it out to look like grasses, and it looks like grass that's close to her, not far away. So I end up having this little field of grass and these little like cattail-y flowers. And I find a brush that looks like little dandelion puffs, so I put little dandelions there as well. I realized that if this is a wall, the light isn't going to be hitting the wall like that, it's going to be hitting the top of the ledge of the wall, so I do fix that. And then I was just trying to make her stand out, but adding this kind of overlay was actually really, really interesting. It made the blues pop, it made it look more like nighttime, so I added some stars in the sky, a little shooting star, and then I go back and decide to fix her eyes because they're bothering me. They are a little bit low, I think, but I like them being open much, much better than them being closed. It gives her a little bit more character, actually. She doesn't look so much happy as she does kind of annoyed. And I decide I'm done. I sign, and that's the last of it. So I hope you enjoyed watching me speed paint today, and I hope you have a lovely day and all that jazz.